are joining for high-risk fields, and we all know why.
Thank you, President Macron, for hosting this forum, and that 1 in 4 people in our world lack access to clean drinking water at home. Why is it that 1 in 3 women in the world experience sexual or physical violence during her lifetime? Why is it that only half of the world has access to the internet? Why have we allowed so many of the world's children to go hungry when we know that we produce enough food to feed the entire world? We cannot be aware of these gaps and simply resign ourselves to them. We cannot accept them by thinking simply, this is what has always been and what will always be. We must instead agree that these growing gaps are unacceptable, and we must agree to work together to bridge them. And here, I want to be clear. This is not about charity. This is about our duty and what we owe to each other as human beings. This is also a strategic imperative. As I've said many times, our world is more interconnected and interdependent than ever before. A virus can spread globally in a matter of months. A hacker in one nation can shut down the critical infrastructure of another. Emissions anywhere can increase air pollution everywhere. In the 21st century, our fates are linked, as is our future. In the 21st century, our nations are interconnected, and our people are interconnected. And so, in the 21st century, addressing inequality is a strategic imperative for each of us, for our security and our health, our shared prosperity, and our collective future. All of which brings me back to this very moment. As we recover from this pandemic, from this crisis, we must challenge the status quo and build something better. As leaders of our world, we must rise to meet this moment, to get at the root of this challenge. We must look critically at the norms that are holding people back from achieving all that they can. To get at the root of this challenge, we must look critically at the long-standing systems and structures that are fractured and fissured. And we must fix them. First, by taking action at home, and second, by showing solidarity as a global community. For our part, the United States is committed to addressing our own systemic gaps. In fact, it has been a priority of our administration. Just before I traveled here, our Congress passed a landmark piece of legislation to make an historic investment in our nation's infrastructure. Another bill that will support our nation's workers and families and help us meet our climate commitment is poised to pass soon. Together, these bills are designed to lift people out of poverty, to put people to work in good jobs, and help bridge the gaps that persist in our nation. And as we make progress at home, we recognize our obligation to other nations around the world. To that end, we are doubling our climate funding for those nations hardest hit, pledging more than 1 billion vaccines worldwide, and sending development assistance to nations throughout the world. and we know there is more we can do and more we must do. But the fact remains, no single nation can take on inequality alone. A challenge this sizable and seismic demands that our world work together in solidarity. And we have seen what is possible when we do. Less than 2 weeks ago, our world joined together at the G20 summit in Italy, and there, leaders from nations that comprise 80% of global GDP agreed to the global minimum tax. This agreement will ensure that corporations, no matter how large, no matter how global, will no longer be able to avoid paying their fair share. And in so doing, it will give countries a greater ability to invest in their people. Now, to be sure, this is just one step, but it shows us what is possible when the world joins together. And we all remember when the world joined together to issue a universal Declaration on Human Rights. We saw what is possible. When the world joined together to launch the International Space Station, we saw what is possible. When the world together eradicated smallpox, we saw what is possible. And I believe that in this pivotal moment, if we join together, there is no challenge that is too big for us to take on. So I will conclude with this. When we acknowledge what is happening in our world, what is actually happening in our world, and then ask ourselves why, we open ourselves up to the possibility that the future can be different, that the future can be better. And in that way, this question is a key to any progress, and it is critical to our shared future. So I challenge all of us here today, government leaders, business leaders, community leaders, let's continue to ask why, and then let's take action. There is the power of the people, and there are the people who are in power. And it will take all of us to meet this challenge. So as we go forward from this place, let us not be burdened by what has been. Let us focus on what can be. And let us realize a better future together. Thank you.